fucking crying.
Monkey D. Goofy. D. Goofy. I'm just slobbering this bad guy.
Why would they do that, bro?
Bro, because it's getting you ready. Yeah, no! What's good, people? It's your boy T-Rav. I'm back again with another video. Right now, I got the Nobody movie review. Now, before I get into that, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let's go ahead and dive in. So, I don't know if this movie flew under people's radar and stuff like that. I think it came out last year. Actually, 2020. Now I'm thinking about it, into 2020 maybe. But, so it's a relatively new movie. And it's by the same creators as John Wick, stuff like that. So, you already know what type of time we're on. And honestly, this fits right in the same universe if you want to be real. Because our boy Hutch, you know what I'm saying, seems like a normal man, normal suburban guy. Honestly, if you pass this dude on the street, you wouldn't think twice about him. But my God, man, this dude is a fucking monster. But, alright, so we kind of start out the movie. He's regular Joe. And I mean, like, really regular. He just seems like he goes to work, clocks in, punches out, goes to bed, repeat. Misses the trash, putting it out in time. And that happens a lot. His wife sleeps with a pillow in between them, like, and he's got 2 kids and stuff like that, you know. Teenage boy, like 15 years old, something like that. And then a daughter who's very young. I'd say like 6, 7 years old, something like that, right? But so it all starts off when someone just breaks into their house one day. Because he was awake, you know what I'm saying? And he got up and went and kind of checked on his kids, I guess, you know, normal routine type stuff. And when he went and checked in his boy's room, he could see that his son was up and he was looking scared, right? And then he hears that people is breaking into the house. So he gets down there and honestly, like, he gets the jump on him quickly because there's two people break into his house, some couple, and they're scrubs, you know, some little Mexican couple. And they're really not on that. They seem actually quite scared, but, you know, they're coming in all brash and reckless and stuff like that because they're amateurs. Clearly, they haven't ever done this before. He doesn't really have much to give them. You know what I'm saying? He's got a couple dollars in the bowl that they keep on the dining room table, but he just has a debit card. He don't have no cash on him. So they take his watch and his ring and stuff like that. But so they're holding him up at gunpoint and things like that. And then all of a sudden, his son flies down the stairs and does a fucking flying tackle on the dude. And then the girl turns around and she's like, you better get off him, And he has a golf club in hand and he could clock this woman. Like, he's got her dead to rights. He doesn't do it. And he tells his son to let go. And then homie hits the little boy and he's like, oh yeah, y'all gonna get it now. But he's just like, you know, y'all just go ahead and take off. Take whatever you want, just leave us be. And they get out of there because they're amateurs. They don't really get how that thing's supposed to go. And then now his son's pissed. His son is pissed once the people leave because the police come. And then everybody's like, you really did nothing? Like, so you had a golf club. You didn't even take, the cop said you had a golf club. You didn't even take a swing. Man, if that had been my family. But like, there's other certain people that say you did the right thing, which he didn't for most people. All right, like normal people would say, hey, someone's broken into my fucking house, I'm about to lay some niggas down. Especially my family's in danger. Like, what? And they had a gun pointed on his son. But then it flashes forward a little bit to the next morning, and it's already started. His son's being like super mad at, just passive aggressive as all hell towards him. And then his wife's talking about, oh, I mean, you did what, you know, probably good for you. It's like, my God, like, just throwing strays at this man. When honestly, the son was reckless. And what if his son ends up getting shot? Like, it's like, you know, there's so much risk involved. And he could see that he's clearly not on that like that. Right? So he had let him go. And then they even go to the next door neighbor, and the next door neighbor's like, oh yeah, I would have gave them niggas the business. It's like, shut up. I could have used the practice. Shut up. I love that dude, though, because that was the perfect character. He was a manly man, drove a 74 Challenge. He's like, oh yeah, my old man, he just died. At least he left me something, though. 4.9 liter engine V8. It's like, shut up. All right, but it was pretty funny. Pretty funny. But then you see a moment, he goes into his office, or I guess his man cave in the basement, and then he's listening to some like old-timey jazz type stuff. Then all of a sudden, someone starts talking over the radio and stuff. And obviously you're getting to see a glimpse of like, he was like, so I heard what happened. And I'm glad you didn't end up doing what you did, because it probably wouldn't have been worth it. And he ends up breaking down how actually in that moment, he clocked so much more than we could have even imagined. He was like, oh yeah, the gun, it was a 38 special. It actually didn't even have any bullets in it. It hadn't been fired in a long time. The other guy was this. It was like, it was crazy. So they really weren't in danger. They actually like didn't have anything to really hurt them. So that's really the main reason I think why he didn't actually do something. But it's wild because he's just sitting there and he's going over it, and then he's going through his normal days, and then his daughter comes out. Like, I think it's probably 2 days later, and she's like, I'm trying to find my kitty cat bracelet. It was in the dining bowl, and he had actually given them the bowls like, this is all I got in terms of cash, and they got the kitty cat bracelet. Boy, that was the last straw. This nigga came home from work, and when his daughter immediately said that, like, cause his wife and the son were like setting the table and stuff like that. As soon as his daughter said that, this nigga said, walked right out the door. And the son was like, what the fuck? The mom was just looked, and she didn't know what the hell was going on. Homie went out and got to work. It was crazy, dog. Okay, so number one, he visited his father before this, and I forgot to mention that. But yeah, he went and visited his father before this, and he was kind of talking to him, and he was like, his dad was like, you all right? And he's like, no, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, you know, do you remember who you are, Hutch? Because I do. And like, it's crazy because he's the only person we know for sure, obviously, knows something about his past and what he used to do. Because, and he drops a line earlier to his son. He was like, yeah, I was an auditor and whatnot, and I was the last person anybody wanted to see. Now, obviously, if you just think about it as a regular person, you ain't gonna think that is what that is, but he really told you exactly what he does or what he did, right? That was his actual job description. He was an auditor for those 3-letter agencies. Like, what are we talking about? It's crazy. So he's going around gathering information, and he ends up tracking down the people that broke into his house, right? But I love this scene that happens before, because he's going around to different tattoo parlors because he remembers a tattoo, a very specific one, custom work. So he has extra money, and he has FBI badges and stuff like that over at his dad's house. So he goes and stops by there again, and his dad's like, well, that didn't take long. He's like, yeah, you know, thinking about I guess fixing what I should have handled in the first place. So he goes out. This one tattoo parlor place is like, oh yeah, that's a fake badge, all this. So who the fuck is you? I wouldn't be flashing around cash if I was you, homie. And boy, that shit was crazy. Because he's like, now there's 3 types of people that flash cash, all right? There's those who don't know any better, those trying to intimidate people, and then those people that are just wishing with every fiber of our being that you would try and fucking take it. Yeah! Oh God, that's so good. That's so good. Because he's like, you can see he is literally waiting for someone to step out of line. And this couple times that's happens in a row where he's not able to actually unleash the beast. And it's getting pent up and pent up and pent up, because these people in this tattoo parlor that was pressing him just a minute ago, when he stretches out the cash and says that last line, the old man, who's actually a war veteran, right, because he's like wearing the stuff, he like, his whole facial expression changes, because obviously he saw what type of tattoo he had. He had like the two of spades and the seven of diamonds or something like that. And then his whole attitude changed completely. He was like, he stood up. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Thank you for your service." And then this nigga walks out and just locks the door. He's like, "You too, old timer." That shit's crazy. And then he literally starts locking the door and all that stuff. And then the other dudes all of a sudden change their tone because they obviously know what the hell that means. That this is not a man to be trifled with. They point him in the right direction. So we flash over to this dumpy ass apartment. Like nasty apartment. And obviously these people are living in squalor. It sucks, but that's the life of a lot of people in the lower middle class and below. Like poverty is a real thing. These folks was eating up ramen noodles. That's their dinner, but they got each other, so they do have something, right? So the wife is in there. She, she boiled the water, starts making the ramen. She's like, come in for dinner to her husband, Luis. He starts walking in, right? And he comes out of the back bedroom down the hallway. It's fucking crazy because she closes the window just like a minute before, before she had boiled the water and stuff. And you don't really think much of it. Obviously, you should know. And boy, when Luis walks out of that motherfucking bedroom and he walks down the hall, all of a sudden you just see this nigga fade out of the darkness from the side of the hallway. It's fucking crazy because Luis walked right past this nigga and he was right there. Oh, that's that shit I'm talking about, boy. When you're a master class assassin, you do this. And clearly, yeah, he's got some rubs, but the techniques is there. The skill is the same. It don't diminish. It's like a fine wine. It gets better with age. Alright. And then he immediately holds him at gunpoint. Because he walks in and he just starts talking heavy. Because before, he was talking like some regular old middle class man. He pops this motherfucker. He's like, "Oh yeah, you motherfuckers came into my home. What's good?" He literally just, his balls is too big. He put them shits on the table. He's like, "I'm here." Alright. And then they're crying and begging for their life because they're not about it. They're amateurs at the end of the day. Right? He's got him at gunpoint. He hears crying. And then he goes and checks the other room. And they got a baby who's on an oxygen machine and everything like that. And he's like, "Fuck!" He literally says that. And then he storms out and without harming them at all. Because he knows. He's like, deep down, he's a good man. But he's looking for the right one to really come back out of retirement, so to speak, right? And it just so happens he goes and he hops on the bus. And it's like God reached out and said, "My boy, your prayers are answered." It's crazy. Alright, because he's riding on the bus, probably just going home. And then this fucking Hummer comes out of nowhere and is swerving right next to the bus. It fucking crashes into the big water jugs and stuff at a construction site. Kind of runs into the bus too. And stops it for a moment. And it's like 5 or 6 Russian gangsters, something like that. Obviously some youngins, early 20s, just fucking delinquents, degenerates of the highest degree. They coming out with their bottles, you know what I'm saying? And then the bus woman's dumb enough to stop, number one. And then she opens the door. It's like, talking about no drink. Like, and they basically just say, "Fuck you. We getting on this bus." And then they start antagonizing the citizens on the bus, obviously. And then they start pressing up on this little girl. And bro, one thing I gotta highlight in this movie, the soundtrack was banging. Oh, the selection was excellent, dog. It just starts playing this old orchestra music, and my goodness, the satisfaction that welled up in this man. He's just smiling. It's like he just knew. It's like, my goodness, the Lord can't be this good to me. Like, there's no way that these damn dumbasses was just dropped into my lap and they deserve it? What? Okay. All right. And so they're having certain citizens get off the bus one by one. And then he's the second to last one. Obviously, they're surrounding the teenage girl. You can figure what they was probably going to do after that. And then he just walks by and he looks at her. It's wild. But he didn't make no crazy face. He wasn't like scared for her or nothing. And then he walks up, and the bus lady's like yelling behind him. You can't hear or whatever. It's the music's playing, right? It's a fucking amazing moment. And he's like, no, don't call the police. He like fucking takes her phone and then just pushes her back and kind of just escorts her out of her own bus. And then he closes the door, right? And then he takes his gun out. He empties all the bullets. And he's like, yeah, what are you doing, old man? I'm gonna fuck you up. And they just start laughing. Obviously, you would think that this nigga's just tripping. And bro, if you watch the scene right before this, after he busts out of the Mexican apartment, he just like gets out into the alleyway. And just to show you how much he got pent up, he just starts punching a fucking brick wall. And I'm not talking about light, son. He is fucking knocking the shit out of it. Alright? Like he's punching with weight. Alright? But coming back to this bus scene, they're like, what you doing, old man? Fuck you up. And they laughing, right? Then one of them like hops up to the plate. We about to go like 5-6 on 1, right? And he's like, I got this. He comes up, slugs him, and then he just eats it. He fucking, he stumbles for a second. He gets like, okay. And he's like, he hits him again. He's like, oh shit. And then he fucking comes back, wham, wham. Boy, he just starts going in. It's crazy because what I like about this, it's different than John Wick in the way that like, you can tell he's high level, but to a degree, you see in the fights, he takes more hits than necessary. Like he's just like, it's like he has to feel some extra sense of danger, even if he has to create it himself because the opponent's not high level enough. He has to make it up himself, and then that gets him going. So he's just taking licks, and he's taking licks from all 5 of these people. And then these niggas, like one of them even stabs him. It's crazy, but he just starts going crazy, dog. One of them comes at him with a bottle. He fucking catches the back of that shit and then fucking shoves that shit right into that nigga's mouth, busting all his fucking teeth out. Then he fucking knocks another nigga into the bus poles and shit like that. Like, dude, it's crazy. He fucking stabs a nigga with his own knife, and then he fucking kicks that shit through his leg, breaking his leg. Takes another nigga's arm, wraps his shit around the pole. It's like, the more and more you get into like him fighting, the worse and worse he was getting. Just the savageness, dog. And he's still taking licks. That's what's crazy. And he's eating them shits. One dude even like is going toe to toe with him. So the rest of it, he gets slung out the fucking bus with him, out the fucking window, falling to the ground and shit. And it's for real. Like, we don't take no pauses in the camera shots or nothing. We sit there and we watch this nigga roll on the ground for a minute, hop back up, and then he's like, like, bro, he's leaking everywhere out his mouth. He got stabbed, all that. He hops back on the bus, right? Closes the door again. And then you can see these niggas in there don't want it no more. They're basically done already. And then they get back up and they all start coming with their knives. But he has one of his, he just starts fucking going to town, dog. It's like, we not playing no fucking games no more. The hype has reached sufficient levels. All right. You niggas got me going. You got a fucking problem? Now you got to deal with it. And he goes and just murks all of them, basically. Kills 4 of them except the 5th one, right? Because, oh, bro. This kid, he finished off something terrible because he broke off a piece of the bars, that you hold on to on the bus or whatever, and he fucking cracks this nigga in his neck, crushing his windpipe. So he's dismantled all these people, and then he's hearing him on the ground. He's still alive, and obviously he's choking to death because his fucking windpipe got crushed. He bends down and gives this nigga a trachea and grabs a fucking straw from a soda cup and pops that shit in his fucking throat so he can breathe. But what we don't know, maybe he did know. What we don't know is that kid is actually the younger brother of the guy that the Russian mob chooses to give their money to protect it. And this guy's named Yulian, right? Now, it's kind of wild. His introduction is pretty crazy. Because he's got a lot of energy as goddamn self. I don't know what all he's been involved with, but he had like special forces background, KGB background, I'm sure, stuff like that. right? Because his intro scene is he comes into this bar, I guess, that he owns, and he's actually hosting all of the people whose money he protects. And he gets up there and he starts doing fucking karaoke for a bit. And then he comes up to the balcony and starts meeting with them. And they're like, yeah, you know, we're not so confident in your ability anymore. We just don't know if you're the right man for the job. And he's like, oh, is that your concern? Walks over to this random dude and fucking smashes the wine glass on the goddamn table and takes the fucking charge and stuff like that, and then just shoves the shit into this nigga's eye. And he's fighting, but he's trying to fight back. He can't do shit. Drags that shit down his face. It's crazy because you can see all of it. And then he goes and fucking cuts his throat. And he's just wilding out. And he's like, and then he comes back and slams shit on the table. He's like, oh, you got faith in me now? That 3% that man owned now belongs to all of us. Here. And fucking take a drink to that shit. And hey, the mob, I guess they didn't mind it too much. They went along with it. So he comes out with energy off the gate. My man Julian looks like he's ready to play ball. And he's got a little black Russian assistant that I'll talk about. It's pretty funny, right? But then after all that, we cut back to Nobody, because that's actually his code name. No one knew about it because Julian starts doing some digging into him, and then even somebody he has is like able to, they have a connect at the Pentagon, right? And they blackmail or whatever to get some information on Nobody. And Pentagon, I guess CIA officials don't have access. They literally cannot get access to this nigga's files. They go and try and check the paper files, and all the shit's redacted, and it literally just says Nobody. Like, come on. Like, if all that is the case, then I would say that this dude named Hutch Mansell is not a person that you want to try and fuck with, okay? I'm just gonna put it like that. But, dog, this dude, he goes back home, and he's been stabbed, he's been fucked up, but he just goes back home, and obviously he just left right before the dinner, right? Mom's the only one that's up. She's up in the kitchen or whatever. And then he walks up the stairs, or starts walking up the stairs. He's like, where were you? I was worried. And you can't really see him. He's kind of hidden off in the shadows a bit. And he stops and pauses. And then he comes, I honestly thought he was going to go and try to wash up or something right quick. And then he walks back down. And then she finally sees this nigga, and he's got a big old fucking blood stain over here because he's been stabbed, and he's got blood all over him and everything. He's been fucked up. And she was like, well, and he's like, it's been a long day. So, obviously, he's starting to get back into it. What we kind of find out is that the wife has some type of knowledge. Now, does she have as much knowledge as the father? I don't think so. Because she actually patches him up, stuff like that. And he's like, oh, it's just like the old days, right? Now, and then they kind of talk about their issues a little bit. I don't want to dwell on that too much because it's kind of normal husband-wife stuff, but it's kind of the reverse a little bit because you think the whole time that it's her that's the issue. But the way he speaks, he actually makes it seem like he's the problem because he's like, I just feel like you're so far away, stuff like that. And then she's like, well, I'm right here. Although I would say the putting the pillow between us kind of contradicts that. But hey, what the fuck do I know, right? So then the next day, there's normal type stuff. He's going about his regular day, comes home, and then he makes dinner for him and stuff like that. And he's got a new swag to him, some new bounce, new pep in his step. And then it's going down because Julian has sent all these niggas. He sent like three Yukons worth of niggas after him. And then in the middle of dinner, like not even middle, they didn't even start. And then he's like, okay, y'all get up. He picks his son out. He's like, get up, go. And he herds them onto the fucking basement. And then they're like, what the hell's going on? This nigga flips down a switch and a panel on the side. He's like, doo-doo-doo. Yeah, that's a real deal safe room, okay? If you saw all that, and then he just kisses his wife, doesn't really say nothing, boom, he's out. But if you saw all that, you should know that your daddy's a badass, okay? Don't ask any more questions. The shit's going down, all right? Just don't worry about it. He's got it handled. And he fucking does. And this is where he starts, he's like kind of monologuing over. He's like, well, he was an auditor and stuff like that. And he was the last person anybody wanted to see at their door. And he obviously is the person that they would send to go and take out CIA and FBI agents that were not doing what they were supposed to or whatever. We don't go real far into it. And I'm glad that we don't. We keep it vague. But it just kind of makes you question where he falls in the power scaling of it all, if I may. You know what I'm saying? Because John Wick's in the same universe. We obviously got to make comparisons. Now, I do think that John Wick is like top, cream of the crop. Baba Yaga, the boogeyman for the boogeyman, right? But nobody is not no slouch. He's not a slouch. Now, I wouldn't say he's John Wick level. I won't say that. I'm not going to be blasphemous and say something like that. But he's got to be goddamn close, man. He's got to be close because, like, when he fights, he's very similar to John Wick in that literally anything he gets his hands on becomes an immediate weapon. It's crazy. He's using all types of stuff. It doesn't really matter. And he's hella smart and can create things that almost like just like booby traps and stuff like that, right? But when these folks come storm into the house, bro, he's just walking around. And it's some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen, dog. Because he just starts walking around. And you see the shadows off in the background as some of them are infiltrating. And then you just see this nigga's walking. And he's got this window. And he's got a fucking butcher knife. And he's just right to his fucking head. Dog, that shit's fucking crazy. And then he walks by. Whoop, gets this nigga. Boop, gets this nigga. It's like crazy. And then niggas start pulling out the straps. He's like, okay, I want to pull out the guns. That's fine. I don't need one myself. I'll just go ahead and take yours. So, bro, he just starts wrestling the gun away from people, knocking the fuck out of people, kicking niggas in their face. Just brutal stuff, dog. Like, he's not holding back on some of these punches. And I like it. I really, really like it. But he does end up getting slept. You know, he gets taken out by, like, I think he took out almost all the people that had come to subdue him, right? There's only like 3 people left. When there was like well over 20, it seemed like, because he's like that stuff I was talking about with the knife and where he's kebabbing my guy. Yeah, he did a lot of different stuff similar to that. It's too much to handle. I can't even fathom what this man was doing. All right, he was just, the knife work is on point. Let's just put it like that, okay? Right? But you know, the black assistant and then a couple of others are the ones that survived, right? Took him in, but they put this nigga in the trunk. How could you be so arrogant as to put this nigga in the trunk? Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Alright? Don't make no damn sense. How you gonna put somebody like that in the trunk? You think that he's not smart enough to get out of this shit? Oh, he hops up out of this shit and it almost makes you feel like he got snuck on purpose. This is what it makes it seem like. It makes it seem like, oh, he got slept just so he could ride out with y'all a little bit and decrease his disadvantage because he knows that they wanted him alive somehow. And he takes them all out and wrecks the car in the process. And bro, this nigga's in the trunk, so this nigga has to be flopping like a fish. It's crazy. And then he hops out the trunk like it's all gravy. But he's still leaking everywhere. It's wild. It's like the punishment this man's taking. It's crazy. He's got crazy endurance. And then the black assistant is pinned down by the car and stuff like that. And he's dying, obviously. And he was like, hey, Black Russian. Yeah, you're pretty unique. He's like, I get that a lot. But then he just sits down and he's like, man. He starts telling the story. And this is where we actually get to find out what he used to do of like being an auditor and stuff like that. And it's like, why are you choosing right now to do this? And then he dies before he's able to finish the story. And then he goes back home. You know, he pulls all, no, he don't pull all the people yet. But he goes and he takes a shower when he gets back home, right? You know, wash all the blood off him. Look clean, look fresh. He got some scrapes, bruises, all that stuff. Looks pretty clean though, overall. And then he goes and lets his family out. And bro, when they come out and they see the carnage that is in this fucking house, they have to know that that's a monster. That's daddy. Alright. That is daddy. Mr. Nobody's daddy. Alright, because he covers the little girl's eyes, obviously. But he lets his son see. He's like, yeah, my nigga, I really do this. Alright, don't ever question me again. And then he goes and sends him off. And his wife has a moment with him. She's like, you got to give me something. He's like, this is who I am. You know what I'm saying? And he even has like these internal thoughts where he's like, I always knew that it was a facade and that this wasn't ever going to actually remain like this. I'm actually surprised that it lasted longer than it did. He doesn't say all that to her. But he's like, yeah, yo, y'all go get somewhere safe. Have faith in me. I got some business to take care of. So, Julian is the target because he knows what Julian's about, all that. And it's crazy because similar to John Wick, he infiltrates his shit so easily and then burns all his money and all of his property, I guess, that controls the money laundering operation and protects all the money for the mob, and he burns all the mob's money. And he pulls up in his club, dog. But he don't just pull up. He's sitting there. He's sitting there. He ain't sitting there with his legs crossed. He's sitting there at a fucking table in the middle of his fucking club while he's doing karaoke and he's eating a fucking steak. You know, real proper like, a real gentleman. And it's crazy, dog. The flex, the big nuts that you must contain in your trousers. But he said, no, I put that shit on the table. I'm here. What? This is one part about him that I like just as much. And sometimes I wish John Wick would do it more. But John Wick don't be flexing like he could. Come on. Not like he could. Nobody just starts flexing sometimes. And it's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, give me the goddamn kitty. He's like, give me the goddamn kitty cat bracelet. He says this way earlier. It's like, it could be over nothing. But you've unleashed the beast, dog. You've unleashed the beast. All right. And I know I'm skipping parts. Okay, but it's okay. It's all right. There's just too much in this movie, dog. It's too much in this movie. Just nobody. I think it succeeds in a way that not a lot of spy movies choose to do. They keep it more realistic. Another one that is similar, not similar to this because they're two very different type of movies, but just being grounded spy movies. It's like Atomic Blonde, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that, where it's like you can actually see somebody being that good. They take hits. They're not so good that they literally just don't get touched and hardly come out of a fight with a scratch. You know what I'm saying? Like, they take licks and it's a part of it, but they keep on going. So I like that fact about Nobody, that it's like that, you know what I'm saying? And then they all surround him in the club or whatever, and then you don't really see, but he actually has his hands under a napkin, and then he's got a freaking claymore in his fucking hand so he can blow everybody up if he so chose. And he has Julian sit down in front of him, and he's like, you know, you broke into my house, and you know that you don't do that. That shit was crazy. It's like, you know who that is? But do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I am the captain now. Yeah. Oh. He's like, you know what? We're even. You know, you broke into my house, and I burned yours. He's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I burned it. He's like, you can go ahead and get out of the life, because that's what I heard that you want to do. Let's go ahead and we both get up out of here, you know what I'm saying? Let's not do this type of stuff anymore. You know, we're even. We're good now. I already burned your stuff, so we gravy. Don't worry about it. He's like, what the fuck? But obviously nobody has the leverage. He got the fucking claymore on him, and he literally just walks out. He walks out, and now they go and chase him and stuff like that. And he goes back to the office building that he's been working at. It's like, it seems like it's just a set of trailers or something like that. You know, not extremely high level in terms of a business. But there's a scene before this where he goes and he buys the business off of him because the business is owned by his wife's father and then his wife's brother. Now, earlier in the episode, right? Oh, and I love this shit right here, boy. This is pure satisfaction. Pure satisfaction. All right? Because the brother, because he's been to war. Oh my God, he's Mr. Big Man. Oh my goodness, he's such a man. This dude really gonna try and intimidate nobody. And nobody is such a good actor at that time that you really don't know that, yeah, no, he ain't really like that. He's actually very formidable. But if you don't have knowledge of who this nigga is, you would just think, oh, he's a fucking scrub. And, you know, his wife's brother comes in and talk about, so did I hear right? Did I hear what I heard right? And, you know, he's got his hair slicked back. He thinks he's just a guy, you know. I guess he's part owner of the business. All right? And he comes up and he points a gun at his head, talking about, this is the safety on. This is when it's off. The quickest way to turn off the lights on somebody. He's like, here, take it. And it's like, I don't want it. And he's like, it's not about want. It's about need. And you need to protect my sister. And it's like, dude, who do you, oh my goodness. But my God, the satisfaction we received when he came back and bought that fucking business later, because he went and obviously he's got gold bars just on standby, you know, to go and give the man a great, because he's already been offering the father to buy the business. He just offered a decent deal. He didn't offer a deal that blew their fucking socks off. I would assume this one would, because I bet he paid 3, 4, 5 times the amount of the business that was necessary, because he literally gives them all the gold bars. And then I think Mitch was his name, something like that. And he's like, what the hell are you doing, Dad? I gotta say too. And then, you know, he's big man. He thinks that he can just fuck nobody up. Hutch, my boy Hutch. And he's like, listen to your father. And then he goes and he tries to punch him. And he's like, doo! He's like, hey, it's okay. Breathe deep. He's like, that shit was hilarious. And he sits his ass down. He's like, yeah, shut the fuck up. Listen to your daddy. Sat that nigga down one punch, baby. It was hilarious, dog. Hey, I just shows you skill. Between somebody who they said, I think that Mitch was like special forces or something like that. But clearly, the separation and skill is very, very great, to put it mildly. All right. But, so, present time, I know I'm bouncing around. It's okay. We come back to the final fight, and guess who shows up to help the homie out? It's his dad and actually his brother, who we had saw a picture way earlier, the very first time he went over to the nursing home to see his dad. And his dad had just had a picture of him as a little boy and then a little black boy. And what I assume was the case is that the dad had to have been probably not nobody level, but he had to be of a pretty high caliber dog, because there was a scene before this where the goons go and try and come after the old man first, and they pull up in his nursing home, and it's 2 of them, and he's sitting there and he's acting like he's asleep, and then the Russian gangsters come up and then they point the gun at him, and he got it like right here, you know what I'm saying? They just got it right here. This nigga opens his eyes and wakes up, and they about to pull the trigger. This nigga puts his finger in between the trigger and the fucking barrel so it can't go off. And then he's got a fucking shotgun underneath the blanket. I low-key called that. He low-key. I said before this scene was out, I was like, this nigga got a shotgun under that blanket. I was like, oh my God. How would I know? Obviously he does. Obviously. It blows this motherfucker away. And then he still got his finger on that dude. rips the gun back, boom, crack his motherfucking ass too, blows his whole shit out. You just see his fucking spine because he literally blew his whole midsection away. And he watches westerns in his spare time. You know, that's what he does in this nursing home. And then obviously the people at the nursing home hear that, so the nurse runs in there, and he just looks like he's watching TV, like nothing fucking happened. And it's crazy because homie doesn't even really come in because it all looks normal. You're like, what the fuck? How did this nigga do this? But he's got homie. Homie is literally dying, and he's kind of slumped right here. But he's like holding his face and holding his mouth so he can't make any noise as he's dying, and he's like choking him out right quick. He's just like, oh, this thing, this shit's crazy. And then he's got the other one over here kind of behind the couch. He's already dead. Oh, I have not seen something that clean in a minute, dog. In a minute. But they do a couple things like that in this movie, and I'm glad because it's fresh. It's like, it mixes stuff up. There's this other move that Hutch's brother does, where when the Russians gang up on the building that he went back to, and his father and his brother's there in the final fight, they're walking around doing their thing. Father's double strapped up with the fucking shotguns, and then RZA, who plays his brother, and I figured it was him because like you could recognize his voice over the radio earlier when he was talking to him, but he's got a fucking sniper rifle, and he's out here fucking doming niggas, and he's fucking getting 3-in-1 kills, and just boop, boop. Like, it's wild. He's obviously high level too. He must have just had to go into hiding for whatever reasons. I'm not sure why that is. There's a couple things that are never explained, and I'm kind of glad that we leave it ambiguous, right? But the day. So the other thing that the RZA does, right? His brother, he's getting ganged up on, and then he just starts using the sniper rifle like it's a fucking staff or whatever, you know what I'm saying? He's fucking cracking niggas with both sides. Then he hits somebody, he detaches the fucking long barrel suppressor, he fucking knocks somebody with that, and then he fucking attaches it again, fucking shoots him, slings it backwards, pops somebody behind him, but then he cracks somebody at the same time with the barrel of with the hilt of the freaking sniper rifle. It's like, dude, that's creative stuff. I hadn't seen that. It's like, how are you just in the regular flow of battle? You've obviously done this many times. You fucking pop somebody with a sniper rifle shooting backwards behind you, and then you pop somebody with the fucking hilt with just the recoil of the sniper rifle. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That was sick. That was sick. And then nobody, you know what I'm saying? He's fucking doing rebar. He's got rebar cannons. They fucking Home Alone this place, you know. And Julian just was never going to make it and take this nigga down or really give him a fierce challenge. Yeah, his brother gets tagged by one shot, but nobody's just crazy, dog, because he has them pinned down. Julian has them all pinned down, and his father's out, his brother's out, he's out. So what the fuck does he do? He grabs this big ass fucking plexiglass window thing that's bulletproof, and I guess he just had it on standby, and then he fucking rigs the fucking claymore to it on the outside and front. That way he just fucking charges at this nigga and then detonates it and fucking knocks the shit out of him and blowing this nigga up while blowing himself back. It's like, it's crazy. And the only reason why you can say it's somewhat plausible is because, number one, the material he had, he was like getting lit up with bullets and it wasn't breaking or anything like that, right? But it's a claymore, it's a directional blast, so I guess in theory it could work. But the only reason why you wouldn't even die from just like the shockwave is, I guess, the glass barrier. But man, like, this movie just, it just goes on and on in terms of like, it's a good movie, man. And honestly, I thought it was going to be much more comedy than it was, but there really wasn't a lot of comedy in it. Like, they had like comedic elements and comedic moments, but I would say that the dude who plays Hutch, like, he does his thing. He's rough, he's rugged, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, I keep harping on it, but the realism in this movie where he's getting tagged, he's getting hit, that's probably the best part about it. You could kind of say the end finishing blow is the more sensational part of the movie, which it clearly is, but it's still not so insane that we can't kind of figure out why it worked out okay. But obviously the family better have a whole new level of respect for him now. And the one thing that did kind of piss me off is that, oh, now that we've gone out, you know, we're being ourselves again, the wife loves us all of a sudden again. It's like, okay, all right, oh, cool. But I didn't really like her very much, but that's just me. You know, I know my boy. His boy has to have a whole other level of respect for him. Shout out to the fucking dad, man, because that scene where he fucking puts the finger in between the fucking trigger and the barrel, that shit was crazy. That shit was excellent. That shit was clean butter biscuits, no gravy. All right, but yeah, man, Nobody's an excellent movie, dog, and it's like the struggle to hide who he really was, and he had done that for over a decade. And he talks about how he overcorrected and how he really feels so distant from his family. And obviously so, you're acting like a whole other person that's not even you. Because, bro, once he had that first night, it's like it unlocked him, and no one was big man in him anymore. Like, no one was pushing him around anymore, and I like that. I really do like that. But I think this is definitely a sleeper movie that went under a whole lot of people's radar. So if you want to check it out, go ahead and head over to HBO Max, because they finally got it on there. You know, they get them shits off of there pretty quick, so go ahead, watch it. I think you'll have a good time. This is one of the movies you can play a lot. I think you'll enjoy it. Got heavy replay value. Soundtrack is really good. I think the action scenes are pretty good. I'm not saying they're John Wick, but they're pretty high level their damn self. You know what I'm saying? So give it a chance. Give it a chance. It's not John Wick. It's something different. But I think in certain ways, there's certain elements that I like a bit more. You know what I'm saying? So that is going to do it for this movie review. Let me know what you thought about the movie Nobody. Have you checked it out at all up to this point? I know it was kind of in the time where the movie theaters weren't really, you know what I'm saying, up and running like they should be. But hopefully y'all have checked this movie out, because I definitely recommend it. So, but that is it for this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, all of that other stuff. It's been your boy T-Rav. Nobody. And I'm out.